Good evening and welcome to a presentation from the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. You can find us online at www.nonatus.org. We are an expression and an application of the fourth vow of the Mercedarian Religious Order. You can find out more about the Mercedarian Religious Order at orderofmercy.org. So I would like to present our guest and also what we're going to be discussing. We are having this discussion during Advent, and the name of this discussion is Make Christmas More Meaningful. My guest is Cindy Coleman. Cindy is a Catholic catechist in two churches in the greater Philadelphia area. That would be Mary, Mother of the Redeemer, and also St. Jude's Catholic Church. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you, Anne. Thanks very much for having me tonight.
Thank you. So Cindy's going to do our presentation, and as she's going along, if you have any questions, please just let Cindy know. So I believe that I'm going to be starting our prayer as we begin. Since we are the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation, we're going to start out with a prayer to Christian families. So please join me in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, Father Almighty, the family is the most ancient institution of humanity, for it is as old as man himself. But because it is thine own institution, and the only means by which man can come into this world and develop to the greatest perfection, therefore the first forces of evil are assaulting it, causing men to despise this basic unit of Christian civilization. In suicidal fury, they seek to deal it a mortal blow. Let them not succeed, Lord, in their destructive designs on the Christian family. Through the intercession of the glorious St. Raymond Nonatus, pleader in heaven for the happiness, welfare, and peace of Christian families, we beg thee to hear our prayers. By the merit of this great saint, our patron, grant that our homes may ever be modeled after the Holy Family of Nazareth. Let not the enemies of Christian family life triumph in their sacrilegious attacks, but rather convert them to the truth, to the glory of thy holy name. Amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Once again, our patron saint is St. Raymond Nonatus, and you can learn more about us at nonatus.org. Cindy, thank you so much again for joining us. And so we'll go to our presentation. Once again, it's called Make Christmas More Meaningful.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks again for having me. Thanks to everybody who's joining us or who may be listening later to the recording or on SoundCloud. So originally, Anne and I talked about maybe our title would be Make Christmas More Spiritual. And we are talking here in a Catholic context. That's where I'm coming from, is a Catholic Christian context. But I thought maybe we could maybe broaden it to not only make Christmas more spiritual, but also using the word meaningful. I'm always all about, besides being a catechist, I'm also about evangelization and reaching out to people. So especially those who don't know Jesus or are far from Jesus. So I think that we all realize that Christmas is a very secularized holiday, right? Even for those of us who are very involved in the church, that it's very hard to not become so caught up in the hustle, the bustle, the presents, the many, many parties, all the going back and forth. And so for people, whether they believe in Jesus or not, most of the United States, most of the people are going to be caught up in the whole culture of Christmas. So I wanted to look at not only personally how we could make it more meaningful for us, but maybe to spread a little message of Jesus, because that's what the holiday is all about. So I think that's probably, as Anne already introduced, that's where we could start. We all agree, I'm sure, in Catholic context, that Jesus is the reason for the season. We always say the reason for the season. And we hear a lot about keeping Christ in Christmas. So I wanted to talk in some, very spiritual ways, but also maybe some more practical ways, some ways that we could reach out to people and make it not only meaningful for us, but meaningful for them. So I hope that will resonate with some people. So the first thing it's an unusual place to start, I think, but life is about choices, and we all have choices. So you might think that you have to do this, or you have to do that, or you have to do it, but stop, pause, not my best thing, stopping and pausing, and think, do you have to do it? Is this going to make your Christmas more meaningful? So for instance, our family is very small, just my husband, my son. I have a brother, he has a brother and sister, they're far away. We send gifts. We don't have, all our parents are dead. So we don't gather with any family. I know some people get together with huge family celebrations and make a really giant dinner. And I've been to those dinners because people are so kind to host me. And I just look at the different ways sometimes the host approach it. Sometimes it's just, they're just so stressed that everything has to be perfect, perfect, perfect. And they have to have, the ham and the turkey and something else and 26 side dishes. And they've got to have a certain amount of desserts and everything has to be perfect, perfect, perfect. And then I see other hosts who just seem to, they plan in a more calm fashion. If it doesn't turn out perfectly, they're like, well, the important thing is, what's the important thing? We're gathered here. We're gathered here to celebrate. We're gathered here together. So I would just kind of challenge people that when you look at your Christmas planning to kind of focus on Jesus first, of course, but why are you having that gathering? And then besides the gathering, I look at present exchange. And again, because we just focus very small, just the three of us and a few friends we exchange with and our family that we just, order on Amazon, pretty much. But I see people who are like stressing that, oh, I have to buy gifts for my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, their 3 kids, my brother's kids, my sister's kids, and all this, and people who are just putting themselves into debt, but more, I think, too, the stress of it. Like, I don't know what to get them. You're not exchanging a gift out of, oh, here's something I found. I think Annie would like it, but must get gifts. And so again, going back to the real reason for the season, I always say it's great. Jesus has a birthday and we get gifts. Aren't we lucky? But to maybe look at cutting back, again, easy for me to say, I only have a 23-year-old son, but I know I see the pressure of people with their small children. I think many, many years ago, I had friends when I was not married, and they were my first really close married friends. And they had 2 young children. And the rule in their family was they would buy 1 piece of clothing, a book, and something to eat for each other. They had kind of parameters, so there wasn't a lot of running around and craziness. And then for their kids, you hear sometimes people pick something you want, something you need, something to read. So and I think of being meaningful at Christmas, it's a choice to remove some things so that we can leave space for other things, because we all only have so much time and so much energy to focus. So I thought that was kind of an unusual place to start, but just life is about choices. And don't think maybe you don't have a choice. Maybe your mother-in-law is very demanding and you have to do Christmas her way. But maybe just because things have always been done one way, people might be open, or as families, I know that families who have a large gift exchange, that over time you started out and it was just a few couples and then everybody had more kids and then it became 13 or 14 or 20 gifts. That just maybe you could suggest to revisit and just lower the burden for everybody, just to focus more on the joy of the season, as Pope Francis would say, right? Christmas is joy. To focus on joy instead of stress and doing and running. So I don't think any of us like stress. I don't know, maybe some people do. And it's okay to say no. That's another choice. So I think I have said no to things. It's so hard. We're so conditioned to say yes. And especially if you're a person who likes to give and likes to do, and people just want one more thing for you to do, and you're like, oh, sure, I can handle it. But it's okay to say no. You can say no. It's a choice. So don't throw away your choices. So beyond choices, I guess I'm going to offer a few words. I thought one of my super favorite symbols about Jesus, and especially for the Advent season, the Christmas season, is light. Are you going toward the light? Focus on the light. So what a powerful symbol for Jesus, right? Jesus is the light of the world. And I always love, as Ann mentioned, I'm a catechist, and I deal with second graders who are really super awesome and cute. And second graders are still filled with wonder. And they're still filled with excitement. And so for me, what a gift that I have a 23-year-old and that I get to hang out every week with a bunch of 7, 8-year-olds, because you see that wonder in small things, or they come into the classroom and the classroom teacher has a tree put up and they're so excited about that. Or yesterday, the simplest thing, we went into the classroom that we share, and the classroom teacher had hung up crepe paper streamers, right? So how crepe paper streamers, the simplest little things, pieces of paper, but oh my goodness, the kids were just so excited. So the lights of Christmas, stop, pause, enjoy them. But always remember, Jesus is the light of the world. So I say to the kids, that was my little segue with the kids, why do we have lights on Christmas trees? Why are there lights all on the houses? Why is there lights everywhere? Because Jesus is the light of the world. So also at our church, we have Liturgy of the Word with children. So we take the kids back and we do the Liturgy of the Word with them, and we light a little candle and we say, why is this candle lit? Why is this candle? What does this mean? Like, Jesus is here. So I think light is such a powerful, powerful symbol. So how do you maybe pull yourself to a pause, to a halt, to a peacefulness of Advent? You take a pause, you look at the Christmas lights, just let it remind you, Jesus, Jesus, bring you back to that focus. Jesus is the light of the world. We were singing a version of the Kents, my second graders. We had our Christmas pageants this week, and my second grade song was Hark the Herald Angels Sing, which is, I love angels so much. And so it's, again, so fun to talk about angels with second graders. And one of the verses talked about light and life to us he brings, and that he is the light of lights. So I just, when you see those symbols of the Christmas lights, that can pull you back to the meaning of Jesus, the light of the world. Jesus, who is our light. Because the opposite of light is like darkness. So I was reading somewhere, don't stay stuck in the mud. Don't stay stuck in the mud. Look up to the light. So some really practical suggestions. I thought I should give you some practical suggestions about, spiritual practices you could do during Advent. So Advent, it's like Lent, but it's not like Lent, right? So as Catholics, we all realize we mark the weeks. It's a liturgical season with purple, with rose pink. But it's not like Lent is about fasting. Lent is about giving up. It's about prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. There's 3 spiritual disciplines. But Advent is more about waiting and transformation. So for Lent, a lot of times people take on very strenuous practices. They give up things that, and the idea almost is, as adults especially, to challenge yourself and give, say that, I haven't been, I've always wanted to start Liturgy of the Hours. I'm going to do morning prayer and evening prayer every day. Or I'm really going to go to Mass every day. Or I'm going to, give up coffee because I love my coffee so much. So, Lent is really about a lot about very strict practices of praying, fasting, and almsgiving. But Advent too has that aspect, but it's a little different in texture. It's to make maybe a small change, still looking at Christ. I'm making a small change, a transformation, a step. So I thought I could make some suggestions about some small steps that you could do for Advent, which would be kind of on the same pattern of what you might do in Lent, but a little bit of a smaller step. So one thing would be daily Mass readings. So for me, that has been probably my most fruitful spiritual practice. And when I get out of sync with doing it, it doesn't go well for me. So there's some super simple ways that if you haven't done this before, you can just get the daily Mass readings. I always suggest to people, if you're going to, instead of even people say, oh, I want to read the Bible in a year, try just the daily Mass readings. So you can access those at usccb.org. You can even sign up. So you can sign up. If you go to usccb.org, you look to the right side of the page, there's a little calendar. You click on the day and the readings. You'll also notice if you look in the column there that you can listen to the audio readings. I really enjoyed that this Lent. They have wonderful, wonderful people who proclaimed the word. It was not like a very robotic, boring voice. They were beautiful, wonderful readers, a whole different variety of them. They would have different readers. They would even sing the Psalms. It was really wonderful. And so maybe if you want, you could read along. You could have it, you could listen to it. Also, they will send it to you. You can sign up, and they will send it to your email every day. So you can just click up and open in the morning, and there it is. So that's a real. Also, I like to use. It's almost a joke with me. I love, love, love to pray with apps, and my super favorite app is one called Laudate, spelled Laudate. It's a free app. You can find it in either the Google, the Android, the iStore. So you just go ahead and download that, and that has a million different things. But the first thing, the top thing is daily readings and Saint. So through there, you can also access the daily readings, and there's also about 10 different meditations, both verbal or something you can read. So it can help you to think about them. So really for Lent, that is how I accessed, because they had right on that page, I opened up, because a lot of us do keep our phones by our beds, or iPad or Kindle. You can just open up, so first thing in the morning, even before I popped out of bed, I opened up my Laudate, and I went down the bottom of the page, and I listened to the readings of the day. And it was just as simple as that. So there's other things you can do. A lot of people I know order Magnificat magazine, which I just bought myself for a birthday present, so that'll be coming. But another one which you might see at your church is The Word Among Us. Especially in our parish, they get them for Lent and Advent. They provide them. They put them in racks around the church. So also, I think they had them in the church office. I picked this one up when I was in the church office. So you might just look around. So the Word Among Us is very simple. It has the Mass readings of the day and a very short meditation. So if you want to just ponder on it a little more. So I would say maybe the number one practice, spiritual practice that I would suggest for really keeping the focus on Christ is to just go to the readings, and then as they build. And of course, you may or may not know, and I came very late to this knowledge, that we're in a cycle now as we approach Christmas called the O antiphons. So if you've heard the song, and I think every Catholic's heard the song, I will spare you my singing, O come, Emmanuel, right? But each of those is one of the O antiphons. So that is in evening prayer, O come wisdom, O come rod of Jesse, O come key of David. And so each of those, you will read into those. So that's another way you can, if you want to pick up some scripture now, like we're kind of halfway through O antiphons, you can just jump into the O antiphons and look those up. Again, usccb.org. If you just go there into the search box and put O antiphons, or anywhere into any Google search, but the usccb.org is a really good source. So one thing I can't say I've done during Advent this year, but years I've done it, it was a good thing, going to daily Mass. So I know at my parish, we usually have a early Mass, and then they add a 9 o'clock in the morning Mass. And so that is something, or even if you just very few years, I have to admit, did I manage. I'm not a morning person. I'm a late night person. So morning Mass is a tough one for me. But the few years I managed to go to Mass every single day during either Advent or Lent, that was just the most superb preparation. So you probably, if you're a parish, I know parishes around us, they coordinate. So also here, I'm rather close to the Shrine of Czestochowa. So they have a 11:30 Mass too. So people like to catch that. So daily Mass, even the occasional daily Mass. But again, as you follow along those readings too, and you see the theme develop, the waiting of Advent. Some other things you can do if you're technological. You're here on a webinar, so I'm going to guess you are. You could sign up for various things, both in Advent and Lent. Dynamic Catholic, I really enjoy theirs. You might be familiar with Dynamic Catholic. Theirs is called Best Advent Ever. It's a little, they will send it to you again. You sign up in email, and they send you this little short video. It's about 4 minutes and 30 seconds every day. You can listen to it anytime. You can play it on your phone. You're just there, so waiting somewhere. You can pull it up as an email. They have a focus for each day, and then they have some suggestions to take it further. So that's a really easy spiritual practice, again, that you can just sign up on, no problem, just free. And then you just can, some days you miss it, it doesn't matter. There's also some other things that you can sign up for, but I just find that Dynamic Catholic is very down to earth. So I know there's other ones you might look into. One of those is Word on Fire. You're probably familiar with Bishop Robert Barron, who is probably, I guess, well, I'm no authority, but I would say to me he is the greatest evangelist of our time, or he's been called the Fulton Sheen of our time. So again, you could sign up this Advent. They had a book you could get for free. If you signed up, you could do that. Or they will, again, send you a daily little email. And of course, they're always posting on social media. That's where their apostolate lies. They're very active on social media. So if you follow them on Facebook, wordonfire.org, you can access their blogs and their talks. And I particularly always, any time of the year, I try to listen to Bishop Barry's Sunday homily just to prepare for Sunday Mass. So those are just some spiritual practices. Again, following the daily readings, going to daily Mass, Best Advent Ever, or Word on Fire, or some other, maybe there's something else. There's really quite a few things out there. So I'm just trying to look at the most popular ones. But in the end, when we're looking at the meaningful Christmas, we're looking at keeping that focus on Christ, keeping the focus on Christ. And in a way, again, I'm so influenced, my spirituality is second grade spirituality, is what I teach my second graders. So really early in the year, we're preparing for reconciliation. And I think it's the second lesson in the book. And the Pharisees come to Jesus and they say, "Teacher, what is the greatest law? What's the greatest commandment?" And as I tell the kids, well, you think they're fooling Jesus? Nobody's fooling Jesus. He saw that. He knew that question before it was asked. And Jesus says, love God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole strength. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So you can really kind of boil that down to an acronym for, especially for second graders, always looking for the easy, joy. And again, what a beautiful, beautiful theme, I think, of Pope Francis's papacy, joy. Always joy. And he just spoke this week. He talked about the joy of Christmas. So joy, Jesus, others, you, and do it in that order. So when you're looking to have a meaningful Advent, the first thing we look at is maybe taking out some things, again, choices, to leave that space, a sacred space for Jesus. And then looking to others. And so in Advent, that is just, to me, the most fun part of Christmas is, besides eating Christmas cookies perhaps, would be the many, many opportunities we have to reach out to others. And also you will find, again, so I'm kind of thinking a little bit too, making it meaningful for ourselves, but how can we make it meaningful for perhaps people who are not close to Jesus, people that we want to introduce to Jesus? So I think so many people, even if they're not somebody who normally even goes to church, if you said to them, we have a giving tree at our church, and we have some tags on there, and you're such a nice and giving person, would you like me to pick up a tag for you? We have some senior citizens, we have foster children, we have some children who are in need in different ways. What would you like me to pick up for you? Maybe that would be a way to bring somebody a little closer to the church. Then maybe you can invite them to come to Mass with you to bring the gift back. But just at this time of year, that's a ministry in our church that I really, really admire the people. There's specifically one person, I won't mention her because she'd probably be so embarrassed, but I'm sure that we literally must have 800 gifts. I think I've looked at the number of tags. It's amazing and beautiful to just see when people take all these tags, and then we have literally 2 Christmas trees in the back of church hung with tags, and then to see week after week bikes and package after package after package show up for all the needy people. It's just a beautiful thing. So again, Jesus, as we love Jesus by loving others. So at this time of year, I think people would rather, you'd rather go physically buy a toy for a child. There's something very physical. We are spiritual. We are both body and soul, right? So we love that spiritual context. And for me, all right, I have a 23-year-old. I like buying toys. It's fun now to go and buy toys. So to go and buy some toys for some kids, I had some 2 brothers who were 6 and 10. I do not know anything about Legos at this time in my life. So it was kind of fun. I went into a parent group. I belong to a Catholic parent group. So I don't know, can I mention them? Peanut Butter and Grace, which is all about Catholic family life. So you can go to Peanut Butter and Grace, and so I like Catholic parent hive mind. Tell me what 2 boys 6 and 10 would like in Legos, because I really don't know. So so that was fun to talk with them about the Lego. So at this time of year, just putting the focus on others. And maybe, yes, we are going to go out, yes, for our family and friends, we are going to buy gifts, absolutely. And there's a beauty in that, to trying to think about what would that person like, to looking at the person, to thinking, in fact, this outfit I'm wearing today, my beautiful new outfit, it was a gift from somebody. So I love this because she, so perfect. Every gift she has ever gotten from me has been so perfect. She just has such an empathy for looking at me and knowing what I would not even think of for myself. But she picked it so perfectly. So there's a reaching out that we do. But again, I think Jesus is always calling us to give where we expect nothing back. Where we expect nothing back. So in those times, at this time of year, when you can reach out, whether it's through a program at church, I know at elementary schools they have this too. And there's also opportunities to go and serve. I see a lot of churches putting it up where to come at Christmas to serve a meal. Again, I love my second graders. This year in our catechism, our parish religious education program, our prep at Mary Mother Redeemer, one of my friends organized, I think, 7 classes of various different grades, first, second, third, fourth. We made little gift bags for people in nursing homes and for the shut-ins that our parish goes to visit. And I was really, I gotta say, I was surprised how so excited about it the kids were. The kids were really excited. So we asked people to, parents to buy hand sanitizer, little tissues, little notebooks, chapstick, hand lotion, really simple things. And the kids were so proud to bring in their donations. And then we, my class, they just colored little pictures and they decorated the bags. And then we made some angels to go in the bags, because I told you, I do love my angels, and Advent is a season of angels. So they were just so thrilled. And it turned out, and I really admire my friend for doing this, to giving the children that opportunity to serve. And one thing I've seen several people do on social media who are friends of mine. And one of my friends, actually, again, I'm thinking of prep. My aide last week, she decided, just kind of on a whim, I think, she decided she was going to take her boys, who are 3rd grade and 6th grade, and they were going to go downtown and bring gifts to the homeless. And she is the 3rd person I know who's done this. So she gathered up some socks, just so you know, socks are like a #1 thing for the homeless, clean, dry socks. Some shelf-stable snacks like fiber bars and puddings and things. And I think probably, I know some of my friends do like $5 Dunkin' Donut gift cards, because then that gives the person a place to go in, get a warm drink, stay warm, be inside. And scarves, so hats and scarves and gloves. And just like in a week, she got it all together, and she took her kids and she went downtown and she handed it out to homeless people. And she said she was moved, but also her kids were so moved. So, and I love that, because both what we did in prep and with her, and she is just a phenomenal person anyway. Her kids are just the most beautiful Catholic family, that we're teaching our kids. And I just can imagine that, how much that meant to those people on the street. I'm sure they liked the socks and the snacks, but I suspect that having little kids come up and tell them Merry Christmas was equally as beneficial for them. So again, and I just kind of bring it down to, our focus, Jesus and others and you, putting us last. But by putting ourselves last, we're really putting ourselves first. And because I will say, the last time I went to reconciliation, I was thinking humility. I think that's become a real focus for me, is looking at others first. So also, I've been, this last year, I've just, seems like my life is just filled with Sisters of Mercy, who are very active here in the area. So shout out to the Sisters of Mercy. We have one at our parish, Sister Janet Baker. My spiritual director is a Sister of Mercy. So I've been going down to Cranleith, which is their spiritual center down in Somerton area. And I just went on a directed retreat there and met some more Sisters of Mercy. One of my friends became an associate, much as the foundation has your order, they have associates, who are Sisters of Mercy, who go through a process of formation. So it just seems like everywhere I look, it's Sisters of Mercy. So the very, very clear message for me this year was works of mercy, works of mercy, works of mercy. So, and we're so familiar with those, but And my pastor, I guess maybe it was the first year he came to our church, was that Year of Mercy. Again, another of Pope Francis's really beautiful themes. And our pastor, which we'd never done before in our narthex, we have a very high dome. He had a beautiful sign which listed all the works of mercy and put it up there. So at this Christmas season, that's how I feel like we can reach out, especially to others in need. You know, not as much maybe, you know, those gifts and things we're going to give to our family, but just thinking of feeding people, all those things, the works of mercy, giving drink. Again, Dunkin' Donuts cards, giving drink to the thirsty. Just those simple things, welcoming the stranger, visiting the sick. So even that was a work of mercy for us as we made those bags with the children and we were sending them out to the shut-ins of our parish and sending them out to people's in nursing home. That was a way of visiting the sick. So again, through your parish or other organizations, there may be opportunities. You watch in your bulletin, we had at our parish we had a coat collection. I think they got over 300 new and used coats because I'm not sure, and they sent them down to a parish in Chester, a very poor parish. So I know that my parish is full of people who are financially rather well off, and truthfully, often people it's much easier for them to write a check than to volunteer their time. I think that a lot of us involved, whether we're scout leaders or catechists or different ministries at church or coaches, that you see the same people over and over again. So it's sometimes rather easier in this busy, again, choices of busyness. People are very busy, and it's much easier for them to write a check than to give some service. But sometimes at this time of year, we can invite them into, hey, buy something for our giving tree, get involved, come, bring it, come do something with our seniors who are gathering, or our children are having a nativity pageant. Do you want to help out? So there's lots of ways that we can be called into that service at this time of year. I don't know if you mind if I read a quote. I just found this really kind of interesting quote online. Again, I'm on social media quite a bit, on Facebook, not as much Instagram. And it was one of those ones that people made a meme out of, put it in a nice little Christmas tree. And this really spoke to me. It said, "This Christmas, mend a quarrel, seek out a forgotten friend, dismiss suspicion and replace it with trust. Write a letter, give a soft answer, encourage youth, manifest your loyalty in word and deed. Keep a promise, forgo a grudge, forgive an enemy, apologize. Try to understand, examine your demands on others, think first of someone else, be kind, be gentle, laugh a little more, express your gratitude, welcome a stranger, gladden the heart of a child, take pleasure in the beauty and wonder of the earth, speak your love, and then speak it again." And that was by Howard W. Hunter. So I saw it in the meme, I Googled it, looked it up. So I think a lot of those things that spoke to were works of mercy, but also me and my second grade spirituality. This year in my classroom, so probably many of you are familiar with I would say ubiquitous, the elf on the shelf. Mrs. Coleman is not a big fan of the elf on the shelf. And Mrs. Coleman is very glad that when my son was little, there was no elf on the shelf. So if you're not familiar with Elf on the Shelf, he is, you buy a little elf, and I do have some elves that are, oh my goodness, I have some elves that are 55 years old on my tree, but you buy a little elf, and the secret Christmas magic, Mom and Dad move him around, and he may do some maybe mischievous or at least amusing things, and the elf spies on you and tells Santa if you're being naughty or nice. So here's my anti-elf pitch, because we don't really want kids only to act well because they're being looked at. And we only don't want them to be good because it's a Santa thing. And we only don't want them to be good one season of the year. We want to increase virtue all year. So I'm not a big fan of the elf on the shelf. So Catholic alternative, there actually are some commercial alternatives, or some people take the wise men and they move them in their house closer every day. And but Mrs. Coleman, in her classroom, but you could do it with kids, in your own child, is we have an Advent angel who came to visit. Same kind of, but it's angel. It's not magic, power of God. So an angel appeared with a note for the kids. Our angel's name happened to be Fidelis, Advent angel, first class. And Fidelis came to visit the kids to give them Christmas messages. So the first thing Fidelis asked was for the kids to please do Advent acts of kindness. So that's why I'm circling around to all these things, mending quarrels, apologizing, looking at other people's ways. So I actually made up this whole little grid. It was like an Advent calendar, you might see, but instead of having to do a certain thing every day, I just asked them, or Fidelis asked them, to do these random acts of kindness that would be appropriate to second graders. But they're ones we can do. So we don't have to go out and buy a gift for the giving tree, or put on a nativity pageant, or make bags to go to the nursing home. You can just be very intentional in Advent to do Advent acts of kindness. You can smile at somebody because everybody's stressed and they're running around. My particular Advent act of kindness is I try to be exceedingly considerate of clerks in stores, because it's that time of year and everybody's waiting in line, and usually you get there and people are like, oh, I had to wait in line, I gotta go. And I'm sure these poor clerks take so much abuse, and they just have to smile and say, happy holidays. So I try to just be very considerate of them. Now I'm thinking maybe I should start like buying Dunkin' Donuts cards for them and just let them know they're appreciated, because I'm sure that they take quite a bit of the downflow of stress of people. So just, we can all, again, in that J-O, in the others, just small acts of kindness. Whether it's, just coming to the stoplight and everybody's at the stop sign at the same time and just waving the other person on. It's a kind of awkward T where I come out of my neighborhood. So I always try to just wave the other person on. But all those things, just the littlest little thing. And of course, I think somebody, one of my friends the other day, they actually did go, they got in line at the McDonald's or something, and the person ahead of them, had paid toward their order. Just those little things that can just, you don't know what burden somebody is bearing. But even if they're not, just any little kindness, any little kindness. One thing I would particularly kind of recommend as an Advent act of kindness, Anne and I talked about a little, is that to be really solicitous of people who have lost someone, especially if this is their first season. I have one friend who lost her husband, a very young widow, who lost her husband this last spring. I have another friend whose husband died a year ago in Thanksgiving. And just, I think all of us look back, both of my parents are dead, and I get a little emotional at times thinking about them at this time of year. But to imagine people who have lost a spouse, lost a parent, lost someone close to them. So just be really, really mindful of that. And I think my understanding, I've not suffered that loss beyond my parents, who were in their 80s. So while it was a loss, it was not an unexpected or very tragic loss like so many people I know who have lost a child or lost a parent or young or lost a spouse. I think they want you to remember that. We all move on. We spend a month, you send a mass card, you have lunch with them, and then you move on, and you think they should move on. But the grieving goes on, and very deep grieving can go on for years. And so they don't want that spouse or child or family member or friend forgotten. And I think that sharing, always, they say share joys and share sorrows, that just letting them know that you are particularly thoughtful of them at this time of year, or to say, I know you must be missing so-and-so. This must be hard for you, to be mindful of them. And then again, I think as part of our spirituality, we could offer to pray with them, or we could pray for them. But, sometimes we're getting better at it, that sometimes you can just take their hand right then and there and pray for their comfort, and pray for them to be able to get through this season, and pray for them to find some joy. But just to be mindful in our little acts of Advent kindness, whether it's to strangers, but also to those closest to us. So just circling back maybe to just a few more spiritual, again, I'll go to the you, but the you for me is what spiritual things can I add to my life? So I saw a really cool mnemonic online. You can tell, me and my joy, I love my mnemonics. So here's the mnemonic I found for spirituality of Advent. A for adoration. So if you haven't done adoration, that could be that one little spiritual practice that you could add. So a lot of times, people ask to sign up every week. In my parish, we have adoration one day a week. People take a full hour. But you could just stop in. You don't need to stay for an hour. You might be a parish. I know our parish, St. Stan's in Lansdale, has perpetual adoration. There's several parishes around who have, I actually kind of know different parishes tend to have them at different days of the week. Just stop in even for 15 minutes. Just spend 15 quiet minutes with Jesus. So A for adoration, D for divine word. Again, that's going back to maybe adding the daily mass readings. V for Virgin Mary, just adopting her attitude of hopeful expectation. I think a lot of the meaningfulness of Advent is the slowing down, the choosing to a quietness, to a space. What's our favorite Christmas carol? Silent Night. Silence, looking for some peace. E for examination of conscience, go to confession. If you haven't been in many years, super great time to start. At the prep program at St. Jude this week, they had confession for the older kids, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to pop right over after I'm done with my session, and I'll just pop right in there. Well, there were very long lines. So it was a long time to wait, but it was a very good thing. It was a good thing that there were long lines. N for neighborliness, just going back to being really mindful of those around us. And T for tradition. So we all probably have traditions that are from our family, but we have so many beautiful traditions in our church, like the O antiphons or nativity scenes. And you can always start a new tradition, but just maybe digging into one. This year, the people who have so nicely invited us this year to share their Christmas Eve are Italian. So for those of you who are Italian, a little Italian there, Ann? Yeah. 7 fishes. So last year we joined them for the 7 fishes, which I've always heard about 7 fishes, never did 7 fishes. I'm Polish, so our Polish traditional celebration, which I shared for many years with my oldest friend, is something called Vigilia, which also is a fish dinner. There are also different components to it. One thing which is really cool, and I'm actually going to ask my friend if I can bring it this year to her, is there's something in the Polish tradition called an opłatek, which basically is a very large communion wafer. So I'll see if I can put my hands up for that. It's about that big. It's basically a communion wafer. You would put it on a bed of straw, and then before Christmas Eve dinner, you share it. You have a prayer, and then someone takes it and they break off a piece, and each person has a piece, and then you go around the table, and you each share it, and then you wish each other Christmas joy or a blessing or whatever good thing you want to wish for them. And so I take a piece of yours and I eat it, and you take a piece of mine. So in a Catholic tradition, it's a beautiful Catholic tradition that really speaks to the Eucharist and the sharing. And also, but on the bed of straw for the baby. And also with Polish, a lot of times you leave that empty seat at the table. So there's a lot of beautiful Christmas traditions. I know that for me, just little one always had a really small nativity scene. And so my pride and joy is that when I'm in Jerusalem many years ago, we did our visit to Bethlehem, and I bought an olive wood nativity scene. But one thing I learned was you take that baby Jesus and you don't put baby Jesus in the manger until Christmas Eve. Or you can take, especially if you have kids, it's kind of cool, you can take the wise men and they're traveling and they're coming closer and closer and closer. So there's all kinds of little traditions that we have. So just look back. Maybe you've let some of your traditions go. Maybe look back fondly to your the things you've done in previous years, and kind of look back to more of those traditions. So that's pretty much, how I wanted to talk about Christmas being meaningful, not just being spiritual, because spiritual is a part of it, but spiritual is those spiritual practices, but also to physically do things, to physically, whether it's acts of kindness, whether it's just being more mindful to yourself. Because I would say that's the big yourself and then the joy is to just make a choice to be less stressed, to do less, to, for me, I guess I realized that my big realization was last week we had a cookie exchange. So there's a little tradition. It's become a tradition with one of my groups of friends. And so usually we have about 6 people do it, 5 or 6. So that's 5. You bring a dozen towards each dozen, 5 dozen people. Well, this year it was humph, big humph for me. It was 9 people. 9 dozen. Oh my gosh. Oh, humph, humph, humph. Grinch, Grinch, Grinch. It was 9. And so that was pretty stressful, I gotta say. Making the cookies was not a joyful moment for me. There was no joy in making those cookies. That was a a task of duty, and I was, and so then I looked back afterward, and I looked. That is just a very poor attitude. Didn't make me happy. It was not a good thing. That I have a choice to make. I can control my attitude, and that was a poor choice. And so so I need to look at things. And so I think a lot of people, that's my particular stressor, and really always making the cookies is a stressful thing for me. But again, great tradition in my family. My mom was a super great cookie baker. I don't know how the woman did it. She would come up with tins with like 8 kinds of cookies. She made them all. But to just do things, choose what gives you joy. If you're hosting dinner, and lots of people do it. I have friends who are fabulous, fabulous hosts, and they do it, and they love to entertain people. But you know what they do to make it less of a stress, if you can afford it? You can buy things. You can cater it out. You can bring something. You can just call up and have something catered. You can allow other people to participate and bring a dish. When people say, "What can I do to help you?" let them help you. Whether it's, I don't really have time to pick up the soda. Could you bring some soda? Or could you make this side dish or that side dish? Whatever. People want to help. Give them the opportunity to help. But again, kind of going back to the beginning, it's a choice. We have choices. So sometimes we're a little boxed in. We think we don't have choices, that it has to be a certain way. But just be gentle. It's a season of gentleness, of quiet, of reflection. I really love one of our parochial vicars, Father Bill, when he has Mass, after communion, and if there's a meditation song, we have silence. He gives us that silence to pause and to think, and it's really profound. He's gone up from 10 seconds, I think, to 20. But for people, it's jarring. Silence and peacefulness, it's jarring to them. So give yourself some silence and peacefulness. And then maybe that will help you to focus on Jesus and others, and then look at your own choices. So I think we're about good on time there, Ann. How are we doing?
Yes, we're really good. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left. So I don't know
if anybody had any questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
Or anybody just wanted to kind of make a point or bring up something they'd been thinking about that from Advent, that, again, the hive mind, I'm all about the hive mind, that maybe somebody else would have something to offer that they've thought about for a meaningful Advent?
Well, I really like the one, and I don't remember who you said the author of it was, the one that you found online about forgiving an enemy, and that whole poem there. That's something that I actually have hanging in my kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
A while ago, yeah, and I love it. And I think I bought it from a Christian book distributor.
It is. Well, actually, it's Howard W. Hunter is his name, and actually I looked into it. He is a Mormon. He was like the 7th president of the Mormon whatever. I'm not really that familiar with Mormons. It's kind of interesting. And actually, some other things I found was kind of interesting as I was looking into some things. The Mormons have this kind of cool Mormon channel, and they have a couple of little videos about what is the meaning of Christmas, which I was kind of looking at more for in the light of talking to the children about it. So again, my spirituality is very, very second grade. But so yeah, so maybe that's why I like evangelization. Hello, let me introduce you to Jesus. I do it with 6, 7-year-olds. So if you have no background with Jesus, I'm your person, because I can bring it down to a really simple level.
Well, we can all use that level of spirituality, I think, because once, Jesus is the main component, isn't he? And when we lose that component, we've lost everything, I think, because if we get too much into the detail of it, keep Jesus as that focal point. And our faith.
I have an incredibly deep love of the Catholic Church, and I just so love being Catholic, but I always need to focus on Jesus. Jesus is the focus, and the Catholic Church helps me to get to Jesus. I'm not here to be a really good member of the church. I'm here to be a disciple, a follower, a spreader of Jesus's love, and the church helps me to do that. And I think sometimes too we can get really caught up, whether it's Christmas and all the festivities, or the church and all the things around us, and lose focus on who really, the reason for the season, Christ Mass, on Jesus.
Cindy, you've done such a great job with this webinar. I want to thank you greatly from the St. Raymond Donatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. If someone who's listening would like to reach out to you in any way? Do you have either an email or website that you'd like to share with them?
Actually, well, my website, you won't be surprised, it's my catechist website, so it's not as much fun. But actually, I'd be happy if anybody wanted to Facebook friend me. I am Cindy Coleman, Coleman like the camping equipment. Iman is E-I-M-A-N-N. That's my maiden name. Nice German name. So I'd be happy to meet people on Facebook. I have a really large group of Facebook friends, which is how I met Ann, right? Through many Catholic connections. I just met another friend yesterday through Blessed is She, I think, somebody she lives here in Philadelphia. I've met really awesome people. Also, I could be contacted at Coleman Prep, Parish Religious Education Program at gmail.com. So either of those, I'd be really happy to meet anybody or talk to anybody. Or,
Martha.
My goodness, yes. I heard somebody. No, maybe not. But if anybody wanted to contact me, or if you have any questions now, I'm super happy to answer them or talk or dialogue or hear your input.
Well, I would invite anyone listening, and especially if it's on the recording, to reach out to her as she said on the email. And once again, you can reach out to our foundation, St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation at nonatus.org. And also, just a quick note, the initial mission of the foundation is to outreach to divorced and separated Catholics. And starting in January 2019, we have a new online support group on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. For people who are going through difficult times related to those topics. So you can email me at director.srnf@gmail.com or on our website, as I mentioned. Also, the last Tuesday of every evening, starting January 2019, last Thursday, I should say, will be an online support group for adult children affected by divorce and separation. So feel free to also reach out to me, and I can send you the webinar podcast link, because we will be doing a webinar similar to this that won't be recorded, because it'll be a private sharing for people who need support. So I thank everyone so much for listening, and I'm going to hand it over to Cindy. Maybe if anyone has any prayer requests, please feel free to share. I would like to offer, Cindy, if you could pray for my own personal intentions. And Cindy, maybe you can lead us with an ending prayer. Thank you so much.
Very happy. Thank you. And anybody have any prayer intentions they'd like to mention aloud?
Cindy, I'd like you to pray for me to have patience and the ability to forgive.
All right. We will pray for that. Anyone else? Just also for all our intentions, anyone who's asked us to pray for them, and especially I have a friend whose husband just had surgery, so I'd like to pray for him. And I have another friend who had a very successful procedure this week, but still some ongoing health problems, so I'd like to pray for her. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Good and gracious God, we thank you for bringing us together this evening, but most of all, we thank you for sending us your Son, Jesus. Help us to be peaceful as we finish our Advent, to look toward the coming of Jesus, both as a baby as we celebrate Christmas, in the Eucharist, as we can share him every time we go to Mass, and again at the end. All of these things are part of Advent. Help us to make choices that lead us to focus on your Son, lead us to Advent joy, to putting Jesus at the center of our lives, not only in this Advent, but throughout our lives. We ask especially for all the intentions mentioned this evening and all the unsaid intentions of those who are listening now or who are maybe listening in the future. We offer all of this in Jesus' name, with the power of the Holy Spirit, to you, O Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. St. Raymond Nonatus, pray for us.
Pray for us. Thank you so much. This recording can be also found on YouTube and SoundCloud. You can look for Philly Mercedarian YouTube channel, Philly Mercedarian on Facebook, and DeSantis. I'm sure it'll also be on Cindy's Facebook page after the fact.
It will.
Yes, so thank you again so much to everyone. Please join us again, and have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody.